set to the king. And because they had understanding of the times and knew how to deal with people, they were successful. Think of it. If you have understanding of those people that are around you, you can be successful at it. It's called evangelism. We've got to change our attitude. Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 35. Actually, let's read just verse 30. Luke 10, verse 30. Let's pick up there. And Jesus answering said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain, read that word, priest that way. And when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In other words, he was traveling, and because he saw him, he went a different way. Next verse. And likewise, a Levite, which was supposed to be the ministers of the church, the helpers of the church. That was the tribe of Levite. When he was at the place, he came, and when he looked on him, he passed on the other side. Could it be because they were afraid they'd get their religious hands dirty because the guy was bloody and dirty and just been beat up, and maybe he couldn't offer their church anything? Maybe there wasn't any assets that they could see that he would be valuable, and how they could incorporate him in their business plan and their church growth strategy. So they decided just to leave him where he was, hurting and beaten and busted up and messed up, and go around on the other side. Maybe it could be because they were on their way to church and they didn't want to be late. So they decided not to stop and change the tire. Or maybe when they were in Walmart and the little lady that was trying to just make it and get through with her kids didn't have enough money to pay for her groceries. And even though we had the money, we decided, you know what? I better keep this for myself because I never know when I'll need it. And you pass by on the other side. It's tough, isn't it? Next verse. But a certain Samaritan, Jesus is telling this story, and he had just came from Samaria, where Samaritans are from, go figure, and they had just rejected him and turned their back on him, and now he's talking about him. Listen to what he says. As he journeyed, he came where he was. What happened? And when he saw him, he had compassion. That's the key to it. When he saw him, he had compassion. And he went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil. Somebody say oil. And wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to the inn and took care of him. 35. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence and gave them to the host, and said unto him, take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, I will come again, and I will repay thee. Quick story, coming to a close today. A priest and his assistant minister came by and were not willing to get on the level of somebody that was hurting. But a guy who was a Samaritan, which was a half-breed citizen of the time, that knew what it was like to be shunned and talked about and rejected, took time out of his schedule. And it said, because he was moved with compassion. If we ever lose our compassion, and I'm just going out on a limb here, I think the Levite and the priest lost some compassion. Because if they would have had it, they would have stopped and did what the Samaritan did. So the Samaritan poured oil, which is a healing agent, and then he poured wine, which was an antiseptic or a cleansing agent. Isn't that funny how we get that messed up? We think we got to clean them up before we get them healed. Or we think we got to clean them up before we bring them to church to get made whole. That's beside the point. But if we could ever understand, until they get whole, they'll never be clean. That it's not our job to make sure, it's not our job to be the flesh police and come by and say, did you know so-and-so did this, or I saw so-and-so doing that. They were running around here. I went to that restaurant. They were sitting there with that person in the smoking section at the bar drinking a drink. Can you believe that? It's not our job to clean them. But it's our job to say, hey, are you looking for something? Because you can keep looking here, but you're not going to find it because I tried it and it didn't work for me either. Why don't we link arms? Why don't we do this thing together? You don't need to be here. There's something so much better for you. What happened to healing them and then trying to get them clean? Sidetrack. It said that he took care of them because he was moved with compassion. Took them to an inn and he paid for it. And I'm not even going there. He paid for it. And then he made preparations to come back by and check on him. I would be excited if we got somebody saved today. It would bless me in ways you don't even know. But what would bless me more is if we had a church that was so full of compassion that after they got healed and God cleaned them up, that we decided, hey, I'm going to check on them. And I'm not just going to leave them here, bandaged up while they're healing, but I'm going to make sure that they understand, you know what, you're not in this thing alone. Because I have compassion, I'm going to keep coming and check on them. What would happen if we had a group of people and were more concerned about the world's needs than our own needs? Wouldn't it be amazing what we could do? Did you know this story said that he put him on his own donkey and rode him to the place to the inn to get taken care of? We get mad if anybody wants to try to use anything of ours. Well, you should have your own faith. I had to work to get mine. You should have your own prayers. What do you want me to pray for? I need somebody to pray for me. What happened to compassion? Or we would say, you know what? Let me walk and let you ride. You take the easy road because I have the ability. I can take the tough road. Sure, I understand. Yeah, I'll write you the check this week, and it's going to be tougher for me, but I know I can make it because I've got some faith, and I've been where you are. And listen, I don't want you to give up because you can keep pushing through. What, you need that for? You need some school supplies for your kids? Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to buy school supplies for my kids, so why don't you just come with me, and you can ride while I walk, because I'm going to walk this thing, even though it's a little tougher for me and I get a little more tired because I'm using my resources. It's okay because I know I can make it. But right now, because you're bruised and you're broken and you're discouraged, you just take the easy route and do it on my back, ride on my coattails. Come to church with me. Just let me be your friend. Let me be there for you. Where's the compassion? Where's the compassion? Because it didn't come from the minister and it didn't come from his assistant. It came from somebody that knew what it was like to sit where he sat and feel what he felt. And it was because of his ability to relate to him that he became successful. Somebody say relevance. Relevance. A big question that you and I have got to realize after we've dealt with our mindset and our attitude is, how is our lifestyle going to change? I know no better way than to show it to you in this next video clip. And as you watch this, I want to see just for a moment if you're moved with compassion. It's short. It's after 12. We're going to let you go home in a minute. But don't miss the whole point of this message right here. It's the lifestyle. Take a look at it.
Here I am, Lord. I don't want to walk by myself and pack on a burden I'm not required to carry. I want to do this in your power, your strength. Because honestly, I love you. So I'm asking, how do I do this? How do I overcome my fears and reach out to my neighbor? How do I evangelize in my sphere of influence? I'm willing. I mean, if Tom needs a truck to move, he can use mine. Cheryl's patio is falling down. I've got a bunch of tools. I'll build her a new one. I'll spring for the lumber. Or if Jack still wants to visit Aunt Betty in North Dakota, I'll buy him a ticket. I want to love them, and not just with words, but action. You say you've come to seek and to save the lost, to give them life, and life to the full. And I've tasted that, so I pray for your life to be part of their life. And I pray that I could play a part of giving that. This neighborhood, this community. It's my mission field, right? But I don't know where else to begin, so I'm praying here. I want to serve you with my entire life. So here I am, Lord. Send me.
Try this very quickly. Point your finger at me. Try it. You got one finger pointing at me and three more pointing back at you. That tough, isn't it? That means even in the midst of all of you, every single one of you are outnumbered. What does that mean? We can talk about how bad the world is and how bad culture is, how much change needs to happen, but until it happens here, it will never happen out there. We can point our finger at the preacher, and I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of preachers at fault. But we can't get rid of all the preachers because a handful didn't do their job right. I'm not saying I've got it nailed, but I'm working on it. I'm going to get there, I'm telling you. I'm determined. Because I know what it's like to have somebody knock on this church door a couple months ago and have somebody say, I lost my job.